Hello and welcome to Live Mindfully with Laurie Moore. I'm trying a new intro this week where we just dive straight into the episode. So if you are a regular listener, please DM me and let me know which one you prefer. Because this podcast is so new, it's important for me to experiment, but I would always love to hear your reports back. Change is always a constant, but it doesn't always make us feel good. So let me know. This week, I am focusing on reflection. So last week we talked in more detail about limiting distractions. In the very first episode of this podcast, I talked about what mindfulness is and how we do it. And I listed 4 key components to mindfulness. And these, for me at least, are game changers when it comes to practicing more mindfulness throughout my day. So the list is limit distractions, reflect, be organized, and set realistic expectations. And this week, we're doing a deeper dive down into reflection. So in 2014, Harvard Business School collaborated with HEC Paris, which is a world-class business school, and the University of North Carolina to run a series of studies on how reflection impacts performance. And they wrote a paper called Learning by Thinking, How Reflection Aids Performance. And you can see the show notes for links to a couple of the different articles on this research. And what they did is they ran 3 experiments. 2 of the experiments were set up with brain teaser exercises, and the 3rd experiment was based in a real-world setting in the workplace. Each had around about 200 people, and they tested which was more effective at increasing performance. Redoing the activity without reflection, and then redoing the activity, or reflecting, sharing with others who had also completed the activity, and then redoing the activity. And they found that reflecting on what you've done before doing it again teaches you to do it better next time. Interestingly, that they didn't find that there was any additional benefit in sharing with others who had also completed the activity. So that the outcomes for both of those 2 groups were the same. So whether you shared with others who had done it or you simply just reflected on your own, the outcome was the same. And it was an interesting study because it also resulted in participants feeling more confident and motivated. And not just in completing the same task again, but just in general. And man, let me tell you, I need some of that right now. I am feeling a little unmotivated. It is winter, so I do sometimes look at the seasons and I think, well, that kind of makes sense too. I'm feeling a little foggy in my brain. I do feel really stressed out at the moment. I feel like there's a lot going on for me and I'm not really sure that I'm 100% coping. So I'm definitely leaning into my tools, and this podcast has become one of those tools. So talking about the things that I use to generate more mindfulness in my life, it's good. Like, it's a good motivator for me. It reminds me, oh yeah, that's why I do this and that and these different activities. So while primarily this research focused on workplace performance specifically, what they found was that reflection, time spent in reflection, boosts performance. It is the number one way to get better at something. And this is really important because this is 100% transferable to our everyday lives. Every day we engage in activities that are either helpful or harmful to our body, mind, and spirit. And if we took some time to do, like a whole day reflection, and I know because I do this, we set ourselves up for success the next day. We are more attuned to our needs. We communicate better. We listen better. We love better. And I know a lot of people use this reflection like they will do this during their meditation. So they can be they're the same thing almost, right? Like if you are not really a big meditator, then just find some time for reflection. If you are a big meditator, then use some component of your meditation to do this reflection. You probably already are. And it's so important because we live in a world focused on getting it done. Just get it done, get it done. We're always moving toward the next project. We are doing. And what this study has found is that taking time throughout each day to stop and not do anything but reflect on the stuff you're getting done is the best and most efficient, and boy, I love that word, way to boost performance. Doing the activity again, according to this research, without reflecting, and sure, they got a little bit better at it, but the group that simply reflected before completing the task again completed the task 18 to 25% better, straight off the bat, than the group that just did it again. And I like to call these moments of reflection adult timeouts. Right? So those of us who are parents know this. When your child is misbehaving or they're overwhelmed or they're acting out, we put them in a timeout so that they can reflect on their behavior and calm down. And I think we need to do the same thing for ourselves. We need to be like, you know what? I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and I'm an adult. So I am going to put myself in a 15-minute time out so that I can reflect on my behavior. You know, how great would that be if someone just rolled over and said, you're looking very stressed, why don't you go into a timeout, please? But it shouldn't only be in that context, right? Like we should be taking time throughout the day to pause and breathe and be in quiet reflection. Because, and here's some stats for you, work is a huge component of our lives. I know I don't need to tell you that, but here's something that you might not know. The average person will spend 90,000 hours in their lifetime working. 90,000 hours. For those that can't do the quick maths like me, I've taken the time to work this out for you. There's 168 hours in every week. Okay, 24 hours a day times 7 days a week equals 168. 90,000 divided by 168 equates to just over 535 weeks. I mean, this is nuts, which is just over 10 years of non-stop, straight up working, no break. And if you're listening to this and you are a mum, the number gets even worse. I am sorry to say, you know this, but the average working mum works 98 hours a week, which is 60 hours more than a full-time job here in Australia. And you might feel like I'm heading off on a tangent here, but stick with me on this because I think this particular research is really important. So a study completed in 2019 by a company called Welsh surveyed 2,000 American mums who worked full-time and had a child or children between the ages of 5 and 12. So you might be thinking, okay, why is this relevant? Well, because the average mother is working 14 hours a day. And making time for reflection, even if you're not working as hard as a mother, is going to be quite hard. But also, just to tie this up, if you are a partner to a mother, it's so important for you to realize that in this traditional setting, she is working 60 hours more a week than you. So where you can, jump in and assist and help her and take the mental load, because that is what kills us the most. Take the mental load away from her. Don't make her reflect on the stuff she forgot to ask you to do. Don't ask her to do things for you that you can do yourself. I truly believe that this is the number one reason there are so many divorces in this specific age bracket with children. And just to throw the stats in here, because you know, I love them. But this specific age bracket for children between 5 and 12, it has the highest percentage of divorce, sitting at 44%. of all of the age brackets. And I was talking to a mum on the weekend, and she kind of hit the nail on the head when she said she was so relieved because when she was divorced, she no longer had to carry resentment. Everything she did still needed to be done, right? She still has to do all the stuff that she's doing, work-wise and parent-wise, but she no longer held this feeling of resentment, which was taking up so much space inside of her. And that's why I think this sidetrack research is so important, because your partner, the mother of your children, is working more than double what you are. And it's so much stuff you don't even see. So if you're listening, take that away from this episode. Take the stuff you can see, take that away from your partner. Be an adult and just get it done. Just help more. You know, washing needs to be done. You know, households need to be cleaned. So just do it. Just do something and do it without making her feel bad about it, or without needing to thank you, or without needing to ask you. Do it without her needing to ask. Take the mental load away from her so she can have a break. All right, rant over. Let's get back on track. We need to implement an opportunity during our day, at the end of our day, or whenever we can fit it in, to actually do this reflection. And I don't want this to become another thing on your to-do list. Like, we don't need that in our lives, and I don't want that for you. This practice, it has to be fluid, and it has to feel good. It has to feel like something you want to do and not something you now have to do. And it's actually really easy to do because you aren't required to really do anything. The purpose of reflection is to ask you to do nothing. Like when you put a child in a timeout, they aren't allowed to stare at the TV or look at their iPad. And if you're a mum like me, your kid is facing a blank wall. And that's how I want you to think about it. You need to be facing a blank wall. You need to limit distractions so that you can properly reflect. Go within and review how your day is going and what you've done and how you're feeling and where in the future you might be able to do things better. Just running through your tasks and specifically thinking about whether that task maybe could be outsourced, or is there a more efficient way to get it done the next time? And I want to be really clear about this. This isn't about being hard on yourself. It is absolutely not about criticizing yourself. It is about sitting and thinking, was I present during that meeting? No, I was quite distracted. Okay, why was I distracted? Well, I'm worried about that thing at home and I really need to address it. Okay, maybe you need to schedule a work from home day or a day off so that you can get on top of the thing that is causing you to be stressed and distracted. Or maybe you are working on a project at work and you are falling behind because people are interrupting you all the time and your phone is always ringing. So maybe you need to tell your boss between the hours of 10 and 12 p.m. for the next 2 weeks, I'll be working on that project and my phone will be on silent. You will not be able to access me just between those 2 hours in the day. And I really think it is important to remember that most of us work with decent people and are in relationship with decent people. And when we communicate our needs better, people listen. And yes, their initial reaction may not always be great, but if you can work into the habit of not reacting to their initial reaction, but just saying what you need and then letting them sit with that without interrupting them, 9 times out of 10, it will be heard and it will be accommodated. So sometimes we need to take the emotion out of the way people react when we ask for things and not get caught up in that, and just give them a moment to sit and think about what we've asked for. So the key takeaways from this conversation are to make some time for reflection away from devices, away from distractions, away from emails, and away from people. And we might have to, and I certainly know I have to, get creative with this. We might need to schedule this reflection into our work day, or get yourself into the habit of reflecting while you walk the dog. Leave the kids and your phone at home with your partner. Like, this is a rule. When you are making time for reflection, you can't take your phone or your kids or things that are going to distract you, because this is your dedicated time to reflect on your day and how things in your life are going. And you need to do that alone. And there will be a period of trial and error with this. For me, I've accepted that I can't meditate or reflect when the kids are here. And every morning I wake up usually with a little person staring at me, asking me to do something for them. And mornings are pretty chaotic around here. From 6 a.m. to about 8:10, I am in mother mode. I'm cleaning, packing bags, packing lunches, dressing children, brushing hair, blah, blah, blah. You get it. But what I've noticed through paying attention to myself and my needs is that right after I drop the kids at school, I need 15 minutes to decompress. Like, I am shattered. So right before we leave for school drop-off, I boil the kettle. And then when I come home, I make a cuppa and I dedicate 30 minutes to myself to meditate and reflect and decompress. And sure, that might not match into a proper meditation session, but it is time where I am still and I am alone with my thoughts and my feelings, and I am alone with me. And this has to be non-negotiable time to just look at how I am doing in my business, in this podcast, in my construction business, and reflect on my parenting as well and how I am doing in that space. So maybe you can do this on the train or bus ride into work or home from work. And that's time where you're not talking on the phone to someone or looking at your socials. Or maybe you can do it when you're walking on a treadmill at the gym. But I would really recommend tying this into something you are already doing, because we need to stack the good stuff. We all feel like we don't have enough time. We all spend countless hours in our days wishing things were different, or wishing we didn't feel a certain way, or wondering why this annoying adult thing has happened to us. I've had so many annoying adult things happen to me this week. We all do that. And reflection could be the key to the door of freedom, because you are actually gifting yourself presence and stillness and doing something really positive with that time. And the research shows that you will be better off. But you need to do that away from distractions and away from other people. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, please share it with your family and friends. Subscribe to Live Mindfully, rate and review. I'll be back next Wednesday with another mindful moment. Until then, take good care of yourself.